I think this is, in my opinion, the most important thing when it comes to building a stackable business.
I go back Wednesday for my last tattoo session of this winter fall season because I don't like to get tattoos in the summer or the spring. You got beach season, the sun, all those components. But this is going to be my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th session with my tattoo artist.
What the fuck?
And I wonder
Has it been that
if
many?
my tattoo artist knows what my lifetime value is because I've been there 10 separate times. I'd be curious.
I mean, if he's subscribed and he's listened to the first 3 episodes where we covered the first 2 pillars of the profit per acquisition, and today we're covering the third, I think that he would be able to calculate that.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to ask him next Wednesday and see.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet my lifetime value with him is relatively on the higher end compared to his average client, which makes me a wise investment, right? So,
yeah, I think this is, in my opinion, the most important thing when it comes to building a stackable business, meaning one that you're out of the rat race. Because when you think about the nature of what we're trying to do, we're trying to get consumers to spend as much money as possible with us. And I would even hazard a guess, or like hazard to say that it's not even across the most time. It's just a pure value, because if you can get someone to spend $10,000 with you in 5 months versus $10,000 with you across 10 years, it clearly starts to make the time horizon a little more meaningful. Although, like, you can say that it depends on your financial management skills, because if you take 10 grand in the first month, you spend it all, and then you're in the Ponzi scheme, which, if you don't know what a Ponzi scheme is and you're not sure how that fits into business, we talked about it in, I think like 2 episodes ago. But the lifetime value of how much someone spends with you for however long they're with you is again how you start to think about the enterprise value. And you start thinking about like how much you're going to have to work, and you really are starting to able to figure out the pieces of how much time do you need to spend with this person to achieve a goal. And then it'll allow you significantly better planning, because let's say your client stays with you for 6 months, right? On average, you'll spend $3,000 a month, and you're batting 100%, whatever the number is. I don't know much about baseball, so fuck off. But like, let's say that you're giving them goal 100% of the time. Now, what happens if, like from a marketing perspective, that's a great marketing tool, but also you can start to plan, like, I'm going to keep people for 6 months. I'm going to get them to goal. That means that they're probably going to give me a referral. So that means I'm going to have a new client slot every 6 months. Well, if we know that the average coach can take 30 clients and deliver high quality service, which is the average plus or minus 5, you start to understand how long it's going to take you to, if you gain 2 clients that month and you only lose 1, now across a year, you'll be positive 12 clients. And this is where now, if you do that for 2 years, you'll be positive 24 clients, which is basically what you would consider a full time. And that's where you can start to plan your budget and everything else. So again, like, in my opinion, the lifetime value is probably one of the more important ones for longevity.
It's the highest
Steve,
leverage one no matter what. And it tends to be, unless you're significantly like just grossly spending money in other places, like just crazy. Like if you're just you're just buying cars for the sake of buying cars, you're with your business money.
Golf
But
trips.
let's assume that that's not the case at this point in time. The two things here is charge people more and or get them to stay with you longer, right? Because your lifetime value is literally how much they pay you times how many times they pay you. If you're selling somebody packages 3 months, 6 months at a time, well, if they pay you, 2 6-month packages, they paid you whatever, $3,000 twice, that's $6,000 of a lifetime value. If they pay you monthly, $300 a month, and they stay for 3 months, well, 300 times 3, $900. If they pay you $1,000 a month for 12 months, that's $12,000.
What if they pay you $25,000 for business coaching, but they only make it on average about 2.5 to 3 months?
Then you made $25,000 in 3 months. I mean,
But what if they do
You're
a
winning.
chargeback dispute?
Unless, well, then you have to subtract that out. If there's chargebacks and people are disputing payments, then you actually, that ends up kind of reducing that lifetime value because it does impact that. So those things are very
Mm-hmm.
real in business, but that's ultimately what lifetime value
Yeah.
is. Every single person pays you a certain amount of
Yeah.
money, a certain amount of times,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the lifetime value side of things. Now, a lot of
Yeah.
times we don't track this number. A lot of people don't necessarily understand what's going on in this side of things, and I encourage you to please track this. A very simple Google sheet can take care of this without a problem. And ultimately, what we care about, especially when we talk about R3 framework here, we want to get them a result. Absolutely. We now, step 2, want retention. Retention is that ascension, that keeping them there for the second payment. And then the last one is going to be the referral and get somebody else to pay their first payment. But it's how we take a single acquisition and get 3 payments out of it, so to speak. But the reality becomes, the more we can increase on lifetime value, the more we can spend on acquisition and or fulfillment, and likely the more profit we generate. So if you, like, let's say your business is super lean, you're your only acquisition mode, you use a really inexpensive $100 a month, go high level, you're spending literally $500 a month or less on acquisition, and you're getting 5 to 10 new clients a month. That's fantastic. I can't come to you and change your $50 to $100 cost to acquire that much. It's not going to change, right? We're attributing some of your pay to that, but the reality is that that's stuck. That's not going away. So we know those things truly exist. So how do I change your world? I increase the lifetime value of a client. Let's say your fulfillment costs are really in check. You're running really lean. You have just the amount of software you need to support people. They're getting great results and they are staying with you. You're not spending dumb
Mm-hmm.
money on dumb shit. You are checking your subscriptions the first and third quarter of every year and taking massive advantage of those Black Friday deals. You're doing all those things and your fulfillment's $100 per client. Well, crap. The
Mm-hmm.
hard expenses against your business are 150, $200 a month per client that you have. We can't get that. And let's say we could get it to zero. That at maximum is $150 to $200 positive swing in your direction. And we know zero is not realistic, but for point purposes
Mm-hmm.
here, I can maybe squeeze $200 worth of juice out of trying to get those numbers as close to or at zero as possible. So on the flip side, if I can increase your lifetime value by more than $150, $200 a month, or increase the total number by elongating how long they're here, or increase how much you charge by $150 a month, that's going to actually do the same exact thing, the same impact to the formula. I can either save 100 or get $100 more. Same impact. Lifetime value ends up being usually the easiest one and the most or the biggest leverage one that you have. So how do we do that? That becomes the big question on the other
Mm-hmm.
side. But here's another key point. So when we think about lifetime value, what numbers go into it, how much they pay, and how many times they pay. The inverse of how many times they pay is going to be your churn. Churn tends to be a
Mm-hmm.
big number we always talk about. Attrition might be another word that you hear about that. Retention might be, on the flip side, the positive version of how many people you're retaining. So your retention is how many you retained. Your churn or attrition is the other portion of how many left. If you have 90% retention, that means you're churning 10% or attriting 10% of your people. Those two numbers combined should be 100%. Now, a fun fact, and I actually just had this really in-depth conversation with one of my clients, and their mind was blown. A lot of businesses sit here and go, and this is a very valid formula. This is something that Hormozy, he really made it very popular, is if you look at your churn versus your acquisition times how much you're charging, you can see what your business ceiling truly is. What I mean by that is there's a point in time where your acquisition hits your churn number and you can't outpace it anymore. So your business gets stuck at this ceiling. Effectively,
Mhm.
the best you can ever do is get 10 new people in per month. Well, the moment you start losing 10 people per month, you're there. You are at max. So whatever number that is, let's say that's 30 people. Well, 30 people paying $1,000 a month now means you're stuck at $30,000 a month, not because you built it that way. So Hormozy did a
Mhm.
whole thing on this. Definitely something fun to look at. But there's one
Mhm.
key thing missing. And this is why I'm better. Okay. Yes, I said that. But if you sell somebody something that has a defined start and end date, which literally 99% of coaching services products do. So if you sell somebody a 3-month package, your built-in churn in your business, your built-in attrition is 33%. You are literally building in that 33% of your people on average over a long enough period of time will leave every single month. If you sell them a 4-month thing, that's 25% per month. If you sell them a 6-month thing, that's 17-ish% per month, a little less. If you sell them a
Mhm.
1-year thing, that's 8.25 or 8.17% or whatever it is, a little more than 8%. The point I'm trying to make is when you sell somebody something that has a start and an end date, which most things do in the service industry, you are selling a certain amount of churn for your business. And so many, I want to get to 0% churn. That is literally and mathematically an impossibility in the program that you sold them. Now, you can ascend them to something else. You can put people into open-ended, non-defined end dates, monthly recurring revenue products that then we have a theoretical goal of 0%, which again, we know is not truly realistic. But understanding your programmatic versus your company
Mhm.
churn is potentially one of the most important things that you can do. Now, I'm not saying that a program that ends in 3 months and has a 33.3% built in churn is bad. I'm saying you not being aware of that and not knowing how to solve that from a company wide perspective is bad. And a lot of people don't think about those
Mhm.
things. So, how do we sell people and ascend people into open ended monthly recurring things and then try to drive that down as close to zero as possible does become the important thing. The reason I mention this is because it is not something that a lot of people think about. But on the flip side of that, if the average person has a churn of 17%, round numbers, I can infer that the average person stays with you for 6 months. 17 times 6 is roughly 100. Okay. If it's 4 months at 25%, I can infer they stay with you 4 months again, blah, blah, blah. So that number allows us to understand how long people stay. Well, if they pay you monthly or they pay you per package, that helps me do my math, but it also plays into that cost to fulfill where we need that number of how long are they staying. So, Steve, what do I do with all this information? Get people to stay longer. Step 2 of the R2 framework is that retention, that ascension. How do you get them into the next thing that they need so that way we can actually better understand and grow our business and grow our profits? Easier thing, raise your price. A lot of you tend to be resistant. Deliver amazing service, keep them longer, increase lifetime value. It's not rocket surgery, but everybody makes it become rocket surgery.
Well, I will say that from the coaching perspective, your lifetime value is probably the most volatile one as
Mhm.
well, right? Because when you think about stability, like cost to acquire, you can kind of calculate and forecast that to some degree. Cost to fulfill is probably your most stable thing, right? Because you kind of know what your cost of goods, like your cost of service, your cost of tech platforms, like those are fixed costs for the most part that won't really change unless you hit certain growth milestones. So when we think about stability in the spectrum of like how much something is likely to change quickly, we know that cost to fulfill is most stable, cost to acquire is next most stable, cost lifetime value is the least stable. Meaning, and you think about seasonal people, like during the summer, you find that a lot of people with disposable income, typically family oriented people, people that are more established in their careers, people like to travel and they tend to stop coaching, right? Is probably what we see, especially in brick and mortar places. They tend to travel, relocate. We also see this during the holiday season. And so immediately, almost overnight, you might lose and have that impact your client tenure or your retention. And maybe they pause it, maybe they don't come back. And so these are things that you want to insulate yourself with by having a larger client roster. And I would say that, as you get higher, and if the average ethical thing is to keep a client for 12 months, and I say that because on average, you'll solve a problem once every 3 months. Like if you want to solve the fitness problem, meaning getting them used to it, getting them equipped, getting them to understand what fitness is, and then stacking something on top of that, about a 3 month learning curve, right? You think about nutrition, 3 months, lifestyle, 3 months, integration into what that is for their day to day. Like that's another 3 month learning curve. So you're really solving 4 problems if you have someone for about 12 months. And depending upon, how that looks, you might have 3 of those months disappear on you real quick. And this is why we say that in order to earn more, you need to continue to learn more. Because let's say you're just an in-person personal trainer, and I don't say just like diminishing your importance in that pie, but we know that the integrative nature of coaching, if you're just relying on you're a one-trick pony, like if all you do is fitness stuff, you're going to miss the boat and you're not going to get as much change, which means your results get worse, which means your lifetime value goes down. So the unspoken nature of something else that goes into lifetime value is your ability to solve problems meaningfully and expeditiously and quickly. If you can't solve the problem, you're going to hurt your referrals, which then has and drives up your cost of acquisition. And then your fixed cost, for the most part, of cost fulfilled doesn't really change. And so now you're spending more while making less. So nutrition, fitness, psychology, coaching, relationship wise. And this is where most people forget as well. Like the first little bit there, you're building trust with a client, which is why coaching psychology is probably the most important thing to front load of getting them to enjoy being with you in general, and then stacking on meaningful technical things on top of that. But everything's more or less a 3 month learning curve. First month, get used to it. Second month, do it really well or get kind of grooved. And third month, do it really well, and then add the next thing. So all that to say, like good coaching is good business, because if you're a good coach, you're probably going to deliver the results. People will like the service. And most food restaurants, when you think about it like this, is like they'll get some of their traffic from Google, but a lot of their traffic for the successful ones, people will come from places because they've heard word of mouth, because of the great service or the great dishes or the great whatever it is. They're known for something. And so that's where the more competent, the more certifications you have to a certain degree, the more experience you have, your lifetime value, while it might not spike immediately, learning is going to increase your lifetime value well into the future. And that's probably what most people want, is they want to coach 10 to 20 people for about 12 months and charge them anywhere from 750 to 1500 bucks a month. No one's mad at, what is that times 10? 1500 bucks a month, that's 15 grand. Like, are you mad if you know? So all that to say, there are steps and sequences, and that's why you can pull on any of these three levers. If you don't know where to start, just hit us up via email or via our socials, and we're happy to get you some first steps. If you want beyond first steps, you're going to probably need to hire a mentor or a coach. We also do that, but we can't give you the entire 12-month plan because we don't even know how you're going to react in the first 4 weeks. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that gives you some insight. Steve, amazing job, covering the PPA and giving them some insights in the business. Obviously subscribe. We have more future oriented business stuff. If you have no idea what a CRM is, we briefly talked about it in the past. We're having subject matter experts, and we're doing product reviews for episodes of the podcast. And I think we have an episode with Go High Level, which is probably something you've heard of, thrown around a lot, and you don't want to miss that episode. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. YouTube's probably going to be your best bet if you want to see and you're a visual person, but if you're on the go, you'll get just as much value if you hit that subscribe button on Spotify, Apple. But we're going to be talking about GHL. We're going to be talking about different things that you can leverage tactically. And we're going to go beyond the esoteric, like, hey, this is what this is. This is kind of what that looks like. But here's how to inject this specific tool into your business. And it starts probably with AOM. So if you have no idea what automated outbound method is, you're a model, like you need to definitely stay subscribed, smash that button, and go review that episode as well, because it'll really help you with your lead flow and basically how to even have the opportunity to talk to people that might be prospective clients. So, Steve, anything else that you want to add as we wrap up on our part 4
That's a
series?
wrap. You guys understand it. Lifetime value minus your cost to acquire, minus your cost to fulfill equals your profit per acquisition. We have those numbers dialed in. It becomes a really simple conversation on any of our calls to just, hey, here's what I would do next in your situation to help increase profitability or solve this problem. So
Yeah.
know those numbers, put them together, and yeah, you're going to be in a good spot to be able to diagnose what you need to be working on. So until next time, we appreciate
That's
you
it.
guys listening in. Any questions, throw those down below, and we'll see you soon.